studying the life and ministry of Jesus Christ, the God who became man, did so that he could give his life away for us. It is and so I thank you for this man. Praise in Jesus' name. Amen. Now, it's big for most of us. So one of the worst ministry experiences has to be that of rejection. Whether it's from a boy, from a girl, maybe a rejection from that job that you want to get that promotion, maybe even rejection trying to get into a university, or even from a sports team. I was going into junior high, I was going into seventh grade, it gets middle school. And you have to keep in mind, up until this point, we're talking since like second grade, I was on the Jackson Chargers, the intramural soccer team. I was the captain of the team. And I was considered by some of you the best on this team. So now it's time to try out for the junior high soccer team. And I'm thinking, well, of course I'm going to get this. And so I go to tryouts, and it's the day after the first cuts, and I go to the gym teacher's office. They put the names on the door. And I go up there and I see my name, of course. Now it's time for second cuts, and I go to Mr. Kamani's office, and I look again, there's my name. But now it's time for the third and final cut. And so I go in that morning, I think it was like a Friday morning, I go in that morning, and I go to Mr. Kamani's office, and guess his name was missing. And I remember I saw Peter Pacopacu's name. And I thought, Peter Pacopacu? And of course, his mom was a teacher at that school, go figure. And I remember, was that a typo or did not write my name down? No, it was correct. I didn't make the team. And so that whole thing, you can imagine everyone, like on the intramural team that I played with, these guys supposed to have made the team. And they're all talking about how cool it was. Don't say that around George. And I'm just trying to make it through this day. So school ends, I get off the bus, I go home, open the door, my dad's home. Hey, George, I don't say a word. I go right into my room, plop myself on the bed, and I start crying. You know the feeling of being rejected. It can be quite painful. It's interesting, when you think you come to Christ, for many of us, one of the amazing things is that we were accepted. Right? You think of this holy, awesome God who knows everything about you. This God who created the universe with his words, the thing who holds all things together, that he loves you, and then more than that he accepts you. It's so liberating. But along with this exception, does this mean that we're done with the reality of rejection? The answer is no. Right? The reality is, when you and I are accepted by God into the life of Jesus Christ, that ends up happening, that you begin to be rejected more and more and more. And that's what we're going to see in the passage that we study today. Right? Jesus is going to wrap up this message of the parables, and we're going to see the rejection of Jesus and the followers of Jesus through the up. And in the rejection, first of Jesus, and then secondly of John the Baptist, what we're going to see for us are patterns. What is it like for us when we get rejected? And the first thing we're going to see, Jesus is going to go back to his hometown. It's going to be a homecoming for Jesus, but they're not going to be so excited about it. So the first thing we're going to see is this rejection, that he's rejected by his inner circle. And then secondly, as we look at John the Baptist, we're going to see how we can even be rejected by those who are on the outside. So first we're going to start off finishing up chapter 13 in Matthew, in verse 53, where we see that it came to pass when Jesus had finished these parables, the study, with the parables, all his business come to an end, and now he departed from there. Where is there? The city of Capernaum. So that's where he's doing most of his ministry. Verse 54, when he had come to his own country, where is that? It's his own country. Nazareth, very good. So he goes home to Nazareth. Now it's interesting because we see this in Luke's account. Now Matthew and Mark both have something in common. In Matthew chapter 4 and in Luke chapter 4, they both begin Jesus' ministry being baptized. Then after he's baptized, tempted by the devil for 40 James. Now, here's where Luke and Matthew, they separate. Because when right after that, Luke says that Jesus goes to his own hometown, which is Nazareth. And as he's there, he opens up the scriptures. Someone would have brought out a scroll, and that'd be cool. And he takes those two little handles and he opens up to Isaiah chapter 61, where it says that the Spirit of the Lord God is the Lord is upon you. He has anointed you to preach the good news to the poor. Because today this message has been fulfilled in your midst. I.e., I'm the Messiah. Any problem? Not a problem. Until he goes on to say, during the ministries of Elijah and Elisha, they didn't minister much to the Jewish people, but they went to the Gentiles. Say, what? And so what we then read in Luke chapter 4 is then they sought to kill Jesus, like bum rush and trying to push him off of the hill and escape through them. Yes. Why do I bring that up? Is this the same account of Luke, just in a different order? Luke starts off his gospel by saying, Theophilus, the friend that he's writing Luke 2, I really went through painstaking efforts to give you an orderly account. Logically ordered or systematically ordered? So you guys can decide. I don't know. It could be the same account, but let's just say that this is the second time. He tried to kill him the first time, but Jesus says, you know what? I'm going to try home one more time. Okay? So he goes back home, and he taught them in their synagogue, so that they were astonished. And we see that in Luke chapter 4. Same thing. They were astonished, and they said, where did this? And if it says man in there, I really think you can cross that out. Mine has it in italics. Why? It's in italics, that's what they add in there. It's not really man. It is a word for man. I think it's a derogatory way of describing you. Where did this one? Where did this one get this wisdom and these mighty words? Is this not the carpenter's son? So what did Jesus do for a living? Like, he was a carpenter. Like, that's what we say. Hey, you know that Jesus is a carpenter. Why? Because he was his father was a carpenter in that town. So by and large, as the firstborn, he was given that trade. That's interesting. Justin Martyr, he's an early church father, early 2nd century. He goes on to tell us that what he made were plows and yoke for oxen. And so can't you imagine those oxen? Like, oh, I want to. They're probably the best, weren't they? And so when Jesus goes on to say, hey, my yoke is easy, my burden is light, like, he would know he made these things. That we don't know if that's really accurate or not, but nevertheless, kind of fun to imagine. Is not his mother called Mary, and his brothers James, Joseph? Some of your translations would say Joseph. Really up north in Galilee, they would call Joseph Joseph. It's just the way they pronounce it. Simon and Judas. So who's James? Right, not the apostle James. So James, the Lord's brother, was an unbeliever during Jesus' ministry. What happened? Because then you go to Acts chapter 15, and I just want you guys to understand how it's a big dog. Because not only do you have the apostle Paul coming into Jerusalem, you also have Peter in Jerusalem, and they're all saying that the Gentiles don't have to be circumcised to be part of the church. And so other people say, no, they do have to be circumcised. You would think, well, Paul says it, Peter says it, therefore the matter's settled, right? No. It wasn't until James, the Lord's brother, he was the one who evaluated everything and said, guys, this is what I think we should do. So it shows you that Paul was referring to Galatians as a pillar in the early church. What happened? 1 Corinthians 15, Paul says he appeared to the apostles after he rose again from the dead. You know who else he appeared to? Jesus. You imagine what that was like? My brother, God. And he was like just a goody two-shoes. No, he really was perfect, How crazy, that was. And then he became a son of God. And then he would end up writing a book called, guess what? James. Now, Martin Luther, he came to James. Although he respected the book, he came to the conclusion, I don't think it's scripture. Why is that? What was the technique called the Reformation? Like, salvation is by grace through faith. Faith. And then James goes on to say, well, I'll show you my faith through my words. Maybe that words is dead. I want to say later on, Luther recanted on that. It was interesting is when you look at the book of James, you will find no other book in the New Testament, no other letter, aligns itself more with the feel, if you will, of the three synoptic gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and stuff. It's certainly part of the New Testament. Just side note. Then, of course, there's Judas, who also would be known as Jude, who, guess what? Was another Jew. So two of Jesus' brothers are getting saved after his resurrection. And his sisters, are they not all with us? But basically, oh, we know this now. We know this now. Where then did this one get all these things? So they were offended at it, scandalizo, they were scandalized in a sense. It's that every time you see that word in the New Testament, people are scandalized with Jesus, like they're offended at him. But Jesus said to them, a prophet is not without honor except in his own country and in his own house. In familiarity with contempt. Right? Now, he did not do many mighty works there because of their unbelief. You ever have people in your life who feel like you feel like they're fully free? Here they hear about the mighty things that Jesus is doing, too, great things, but how they respond. This is the carpenter's son. Come on, Mary is with us, his brother's with us. He grew up with this guy. He's no better than us. There's some people, when they give their life to Jesus, they come out of family and friends and relationships that are like there's some houses you can walk into the house and you can just feel that atmosphere of negativity. You ever been in a house like that? You come to a house like that. She's always putting people down. There's just a negative outlet. Now the person gives their life to Jesus, oh yeah, you know, oh, you're a good. Remember watching the show, this guy was overweight, and the camera crew followed him into his house, and there was his father and his brother. There was like a twisted joy in trying to tempt him to do that. Just pulling him down. It's like they kind of like watching him fail. And I know that there are people who can be surrounded with family members, sadly, at times, and friends who are like that. We live in a situation like that. You're surrounded with people who want to play you down. One, you need to be in church as much as possible. You really be wise because you need to hear people that encourage you. You need to learn how to do relationships. When I gave my life to Christ, I did come from a somewhat dysfunctional family. I remember I come to the church, and now I have to deal with relationships and all this stuff that maybe I acquired over the years, and I have to get worked out. And as long as you stay in the church, you get to know people, guess what? You can't lie. And so the Holy Spirit begins to heal lives that maybe been damaged and very throughout their life. The church begins to heal. You need to be in church. Number two, that's what you need to be in the Word of God. You need to find out what God says about you. You need to find out who God is. And so in this way, you can escape maybe who you were. Because now you know who God is, now you know who is calling you, know who is living through you. And it could be you just need to cut off all those relationships. Even to the point of moving out of this relationship. You need to cut those relationships. You would think that those who meet Jesus would have been happiest for him, right? I think he's the hometown hero, the miracle worker, the needs of us. I remember the first time I was going down 35 in Alvin, Texas. You know where 35 is? It doesn't take long to realize that Nolan Ryan was born and raised in Alvin, Texas. Because it's like everywhere. Why? He's like the strikeout king, right? Like one of the best pitchers of all time. Born and raised. Like, how come Nazareth wasn't like this? This is like our guy. Can you imagine if Nolan Ryan began preaching to people that need to repent? And then he needs to turn to God. It's a little bit different, right? Because Jesus is saying, yes, this miracle working power has been given to me, and thus verifying my message that you need to repent, turn to God, and it's through me that you can have a relationship with God. I remember when I came to Jesus Christ, I was thinking, I was like, man, all my family friends are going to they're all going to come. Anyone else feel that way? I can't be the only one, man. I was like, they knew who I was. And I had little brothers, and especially I have big brothers. And you know, if you're like one of the older siblings, you believe that you can convince your younger siblings anything. And so I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm coming to Jesus and totally coming. I start telling my parents, start telling my friends, I never talk to you again. Even though like I do in sixth grade now, my brothers, I don't want anything to do with them. This is what Paul thought. Paul gets saved, he goes to Jerusalem, he's in the temple. Lord, let me have that. This is my big job. I'm being trained. I'm a Gamaliel's top disciple. They know that I persecuted the church. Just give me some time, man. You're going to come back in the heart because all of this will be saved. You preach the gospel here. So what did Jesus say? You're going to reject you. You need to take off. It's interesting. You see later on in Paul's ministry, he would go to the point, I think it's in Romans 10, he says, my heart's desire and prayer for Israel that they might be saved. He said, I would give up my soul. I would give up my salvation that they might be saved, if possible, which is not. And so you see, so what he starts doing, he starts going to this church and this church and this church, making collections, financial collections, thus to bring that money to the financial suffering church in Jerusalem. Wasn't that real for him? I don't know, because think about that. So he goes there, and as he's getting closer, it says the Holy Spirit was testifying to him in every single city that he was going to get arrested, warning him really. And then finally he gets there, and he has all this money, hopeful to say, hey, look, we love you guys. The Gentiles love you in the Jerusalem church. And Jesus everything dang, he did. But then he takes that money, and then he gives it to these two guys in order that they might fulfill their vow. That's where that money went to. And the next thing you know, Paul's almost getting torn limb from limb. You have to make it to Rome, but after 2 years, impressive. Well, what you see here is that when we give our lives to Jesus Christ, we think that all of our friends and family are going to accept Christ at the gate. I'm not saying don't minister to your family because there is a balance. James and John, brothers. Peter and Andrew, brothers. John the Baptist was Jesus' cousin. So really God works in families. However, don't be surprised if you don't see your testimony. Sometimes people can despise that community. I've heard of several situations in which a parent gets saved even later on in life. And now as a child is developing and getting older and they start getting into certain things. You can't listen to that music. You can't watch that movie. You can't have that movie. You can't go out and you're a hypocrite. You used to do that stuff. You're a hypocrite. But is his parent a hypocrite in that situation? What's hypocrisy? Hypocrisy is doing something and justifying it in yourself and saying it's wrong in other people. It's not being a hypocrite thing to change to recognize that you're doing something wrong. Certainly then to have stopped that behavior and now fulfilling your God-given role as a parent to make sure that your children aren't doing that behavior. But for these guys here in Nazareth, Jesus is like old news. How do you know this guy? Kind of got in the culture. He's like old news. We did that already. Kind of pass this whole Jesus. Go to the bookstore library. Go to the Hindu spirituality section. You're hard pressed to find a book about missionaries, about Christian things. They can find Eastern mysticism, how to do chakras, do magic. Why? What did Jesus do? I remember myself when I was seeing things about God. I went to the bookstore. I just found some of this yesterday. I went to the bookstore because I wanted to go buy a Quran. Because in my mind, I'm like, dude, we're past Jesus. We've already tried that. He's old news. And praise God, they didn't have any Qurans, and I was supposed to buy a Bible. You know? I remember being in 10th grade. I was in Mr. Bogdan's history class. And he starts telling us that all these ancient cultures they worshipped many gods. And I remember I raised my hand. I blurted out. I said, so basically this is what's going on. So we used to believe in many gods. Then we believed in one God. And these people all realize there's no God. And I think that's where like a lot of our culture is. Well, we're past this thing. So what do we do now to reach out to this culture that's maybe past Christ, maybe past Christianity? We change. We have to shift and mold ourselves. Here's the deal. I get so much literature in the mail, whether it's an email, whether it's in snail mail, and all these different programs, and all these box kits, and all these different things that you and I need to be doing in order to reach the culture in our day. I need to be overwhelmed. And I see all this stuff, and you know what I think to myself? Never. It's trash. Because here's the deal. The way I look at it is this. A man goes out to sow seed. And some fell out on the hard soil, and some in the rocky, and some with the weeds, and some on good. And it doesn't matter how fancy the sower sows the seed, behind the back, through the legs, is the seed going to have a different effect based upon how it's sown? What's important is the soil. So we're just going to preach the gospel. We're just going to tell people about Jesus. A lot of people are going to reject it, but some people, when it falls on good soil, it will give fruit. These guys also, they despise that he didn't go through their accepted chains of authority. Right? They say, they're like, where did this guy get this wisdom? You go on us, you go to school, it's accepted, recognized programs. And I do want to, I know I've done this before, just talk about, I've had several conversations about this lately, about the role of seminary and the church. How do those two function? The seminary is super important for equipping people for the work of the ministry. But we have to recognize that it's not the church. What did Jesus say? Peter, upon this rock I will build not the seminary, but my church. Seminary is what assists the church. Right? Seminary is a place, you're wondering, seminary, I got something, I haven't even heard of seminary. I already graduated college. I didn't even know what it was. Seminary is a place, basically, you're going to learn a lot of stuff about God, the Bible, church history, and different things. But its central role is to equip this part, right? The brain, the mind, the thinking. And it's super important because most of those who've done most of the church have studied both. Pretty useful tool a person can be. The issue is real training within the church can't happen in the school. It's OJT. It's on-the-job training. To illustrate this problem, because the recognition of someone who's called in the ministry is not handed over from the church. It's been given to the church. God calls, the church recognizes. And that's where this happens. A man named Dave Harvey from Westminster Theological Seminary wrote a book entitled Am I Called? He says this, quote, the funny thing about us evangelicals is we take men who are in the church out of the church in order to send them back into the church to do ministry in the church. He says, is anyone else confused? And he clarifies, he says, I'm thinking specifically of identifying called men. That's the point. Evaluating their call, assessing their character, and positioning them to be fruitful in their call. He says that's the responsibility of the local church. Remember, Jesus is building the church. In Acts chapter 4, as John and Peter are arrested, and the religious leaders recognize that they are untrained, uneducated men, but that they have spent time with Jesus. It's your responsibility, whatever church you go to, as the church, to recognize those who are called to be leaders. It really is. Martin Lloyd-Jones, John Bunyan, D.L. Moody, A.W. Tozer, favorite. Charles Spurgeon. These are all people. Charles Spurgeon, all people who didn't get the official seminary training. When you look at the requirements of a bishop and a deacon, you ever notice in 1 Timothy 3, for those who read it, we think in our culture, we're like, what's the main thing for a pastor or for a teacher? You have to teach. He actually says, husband and wife, I have to be pure, not giving to anger and wrath, good reputation with outsiders. These are things of character. And so that's why it's your responsibility to know and to appoint those people. Okay, that's part of the church's responsibility. And brings up first, so if you are ever involved in a church where there is a kind of, you're going to be selecting who your pastor is, remember that the requirement isn't just some degree. That does not mean that that individual is called to do so. And then secondly, it's an encouragement for those who do want to go to something you like to afford it. Right? Often didn't go, you didn't go. Does faith limit God's power? Remember that Jesus was there in Nazareth and he didn't do many miracles. Mark would actually say it quite strong. He would say that he could not perform many miracles because of the lack of faith. With our lack of faith, short-circuit God's miraculous power. It's interesting, we're going to read in this next section. There's Jesus surrounded by 5,000 men who are hungry. The disciples then suggested, Jesus, such great faith, why don't you send these people away? And Peter said, and the Lord says, sit them down because they're going to eat something. Did they believe that they had faith in Jesus? No. Miracle. And after that, they walked right into a storm. Mark's account again. Do you not care that we are perishing, Lord? Do they have faith? Not at all. Jesus chose to stop that storm. So all this to say that Jesus, God, is not dependent upon our faith to do anything. Either anything you want. So how does faith work? It's really not that complicated. Imagine Dad goes to the store, gets some ice cream, puts it in the freezer. It's the day. That day to which Dad finally says, okay, kids, sit down and scoop out some ice cream, put it for you in the bowl. Dad hasn't eaten it already. And he's going to serve his kids some ice cream. Dad can do that. And he might. But what are kids going to do? Like the lion who sees the weak gazelle. You see Dad when he comes home tired and exhausted. Or maybe Dad's in a good mood. They know they're smart, it's built into them. And then they say, Daddy, can we have some ice cream? Daddy may say no. Do they give up? No. Another day goes by, or maybe another sibling comes to you, a little bit more cute than the first one. Can we have ice cream, Dad? 3, 4 times, and finally he's going to say yes. How does faith work? It's that simple. Your dad owns everything. Your dad can do anything. And so you're just a child and you say, Dad, can I have this? Dad, would you please do this? And sometimes Dad says, I'm not going to right now. Look, I love you. I always have your best intentions in mind. But I see the beginning from the end and I know what I'm doing in your life. So I may say now no. And I may always say no to that request that you have. Or you may ask the first time, and the second time, the third time, and your father eventually says, as Jesus says, I want you to pray and not lose heart, that you continue to ask, and then God does it. But it's not something that you possess. Your faith is not power. The power of your faith is in the power of God and in His love towards you. And the only thing we get to do is capitalize that on desperate children. Have an awesome day. You know, something that is really moved into the church in the last century and is extended to many parts within the church is something known as the word of faith movement. And even though some churches that embrace this to some extent wouldn't recognize it as word of faith, but it used to be where people would say, hey, name it, you claim it. And we say, we believe in that here, name it, you claim it. You name the need in the church, you claim the responsibility. Believe it, receive it, is how it works. And it is really kind of like an Eastern type of thought. It works like this. If you can kind of see it in your mind's eye, and you just kind of enter your mind and see where it goes, and if you begin to believe in something and focus on it, you can actually change and shift reality for your future. Or even more than that, if you begin speaking things, that you can actually create and mold your future to some degree. Why? Because if God can speak the world into existence with His words, you are a son and daughter of God. You therefore have some of that power. And I remember leading a Bible study one time. This lady, we had all these different denominations. She was serious, and she said, you know, I just have this bad habit of seeing bats. Every time you see a bat, oh, bats. And then she said, Bruce, you know, all three of you, we have a bat problem. spoken into existence. And then I replied to him, man, that's when you get angry, you want to name it. Kind of like, just to illustrate how silly and how foolish that is. Guys, here's real faith. Real faith is a David Livingstone who traverses 40,000 miles in uncharted Africa, guys, facing lions, facing like diseases, walking his entire life pretty much with malaria and dysentery, encountering tribes with human jawbones around their heads to let them know that they're cannibals. 40,000 miles. And he never gave up. Real faith is a Hudson Taylor who finally makes it to China when people didn't even want him to go there. He's by himself. He finds this little like upper room in someone's house where there's frost within the house, and he's thanking God that he has a place to live. And he finally made it to China. Real faith is a William Carey who gives up everything he has, even against the church's will, to go to India, where his wife would lose her mind, die, no miraculous healing, where he would then translate the Bible into Sanskrit, and as he was almost done, the printing press was burned by Hindus, and so what does he do? Well, I guess that's a closed door? No. He'd save more money, and it was hard work, as it would be for an unbeliever. That's how hard it was for him. And he got back up, and he continued working. Real faith is seeing Jesus. That's real faith. It's seeing the end, it's seeing Christ. It's looking forward to that day when he says, well done, good and faithful servant. Real faith isn't being able to see visions and prophesy in this way and that way. Real faith is being able to endure trials because the Holy Spirit is in you, and you can't not but help do the things you're doing for God. And it will overcome every trial and tribulation. And then people who are on the outside will be amazed, not because of super miraculous power within you, because man, look what you go through because of your faith for God. And so we see that here is Jesus. It's amazing, right? That he was rejected by his inner circle. And now, we're not done with John the Baptist. We're going to get kind of like a little flashback, a little story about him. We'll end up getting to John the Baptist. And in so doing, we're going to see him being rejected by an outsider. So starting now in verse 1, at that time, Herod the Tetrarch. We have a map here. Let's see. Oh, he's looks bigger like your sheet. The blue, right? That is blue, purple. Red, green, colorblind. So when you subtract red from purple, you get this. There you go. Purple is blue. So the purple is Herod the Tetrarch. Up there is Herod Antipas. You see those two regions. You guys see that? Okay. So Herod the Tetrarch, not that Herod tried to take Jesus' life and he was born Bethlehem, this would be his son. He hears about the report about Jesus, and he said to his servants, "This is John the Baptist. He is risen from the dead, and therefore these powers are at work in him." Where did that kind of thing from? Well, obviously, this is John the Baptist risen from the dead. Like, what? Isn't it amazing how otherwise intelligent people, when it comes to spiritual matters and things about God, can become kind of weird in their thinking? Like, they really become kind of, start coming to weird conclusions. Francis Crick. You guys ever heard of him? Watson Crick, who discovered DNA? Crick was like really the brainchild behind the whole thing. He was the dude. And even after Watson died, he's still discovering stuff. He's the guy who discovers, when your body wants to build a protein or do something, that you have something in your body that knows where to find that code. And that's what your DNA is. It's like this. Remember those scrolls, the Isaiah scroll? It'll unroll it. And there's something in it'll unroll the DNA where it needs to find the code to make that program. There's something that takes it, and it will then deliver it to this thing, and then it knows how to process that protein. It's radical, right? Just amazing. And as he's discovering all of these things, he's writing to the students, and he says, you're going to be tempted with this overwhelming feeling that this has all been designed. You have to resist that at all costs. So later on in his life, when he's wrestle, where then did this come from? Because even he had a hard time saying that this was evolved by chance. To which he replied, I guess aliens could have played with you. You're a genius. Like Alf, E.T., and who made them, right? Or how about like otherwise good actors? Tom Cruise, John Travolta, maybe home run strikeout kind of guy. The Scientologist stuff. We have these lost memories because you and I are all eternal, and something must have happened when we try to block this out of our mind. But really, within us is this TCAM, you said. And if you can kind of unlock all these little memories and stuff, then eventually you will have the power to control space and time and matter. You stick to Mission Impossible. And you think it's crazy, isn't it? Like these guys, otherwise just intelligent human beings, they come with why? Because God says, professing to be wise and comfortable. When it comes to the things about God, because they continue to choose to suppress the knowledge of God, God says, fine, I will lead you over foolishness as it relates to spiritual matters. And here's Herod, that is John the Baptist. Verse 3, for Herod had laid hold of John and bound him and put him in prison for the sake of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife, because John had said to him, it is not lawful for you to have her. And although he wanted to put him to death, he feared the multitude because they counted him as a prophet. Now, Josephus does tell us a little bit about that. I can get to that maybe later on. But Josephus writes about this, where there was a time in which Herod Antipas, this Herod, and his brother Philip both went to Rome. And at that time, Herod had hooked up with Herodias, and that's where they made the plan that they were going to get married. Okay? And so when John is rebuking Herod, it's not so much that you divorced your wife, but the real issue is this. In Leviticus 18:16, quoting the law, you shall not uncover the nakedness of your brother's wife, which your brother's nakedness. Right? Because the divorces were happening, but this was a real issue. And so here you have this religious figure who's now rebuking this political figure. Verse 6, but when Herod's birthday was celebrated, the daughter of Herodias danced before them and pleased Herod. Now, experts tell us that Herodias was pregnant from 12 to 14 years old. Just horrendous. Just you guys know, I was talking earlier my anti-seminary. I'm actually looking now, possibly getting back to the seminary, okay? And I had to take this class on sexual predators. And just looking at some of these statistics, so 1 out of 4 women will have been sexually abused. 1 out of 6 men will have been sexually abused. This is high. They say the reason is the average age for someone watching come out and say this is in their 30s. They say the main reason why people won't come out and say something younger is pretty consistent. Because they didn't think that anyone would believe them. And sadly, there's a lot of accounts of kids telling other people and parents that say, no, not that. And so I just want to get know, first of all, that we are making a requirement for grade having it classes and that's something it's such a big deal. Super important to us. And another statistic as well, they say that children, when they say something that sounds startling, over 90% of the time they're telling the truth. Over 90% of the time they are telling the truth. And even if it may not be true, their perception of it is they are telling the truth. So if the child ever says anything, they need to believe it. You need to listen to them. Just how sad that this guy is in this place. And all the men with him, verse 7, therefore he promised with an oath to give her whatever she might ask. So she, having been prompted by her mother, said, give me John the Baptist's head on a platter. And the king was sorry, nevertheless, because of the oaths and because of those who sat with him, he commanded it to be given to her. So he sent and had John beheaded in prison, and his head was brought on a platter and given to the girl, and she brought it to her mother. Then his disciples came and took away the body and buried it, and went and told Jesus. Jesus gives this account. He says that it was for political reasons, but here we see it's because of more moral reasons. So both of these stories really mesh together. Okay, remember, John the Baptist is now rebuking Herod because he was married to the wife, the region there to the south is Nabatea. Okay, the daughter of the king of Nabatea was Herod's wife. He had to divorce her. Well, now she has to go home in shame. And so now the king to the south of your region, guess what? He wants to go to war with you. And now on top of that, since Josephus also says that the followers of John the Baptist were very loyal to him. So now imagine if your own citizens, your own people are opposed to you, now this other king is opposed to you. See why it's a political problem? And in fact, they would go to war and Herod would be defeated. Herod would end up dying, he would be exiled with Herodias, and that's what he would spend his last days. We see here, following God, it means at times you're going to be rejected by outsiders, certainly ones that raise you. I just read an article 2 days ago. China is now forcing every religious building to fly their Chinese Communist flag. That's exactly what Nazi Germany did in the late 30s. And that was when Bonhoeffer, right, he started making a change. He was opposed to Hitler at that point instead of fighting against Hitler's death, fighting against his life, and being concentration camps where he would die and martyred. The home church is now illegal in China. People that are taught there, you'll be sent to a re-education camp, which is exactly what the Soviet Union did in the 50s and 60s. If you were a Christian, they would try to convince you otherwise. If you would not recant your faith, they would then deem you were psychologically unfit for the society. It's just scary how the government can oppress in different ways Christianity. What do you think John would say about that notion that religion and politics don't mix? As here he is, religiously rebuking and going through the scriptures with political things. Is it true, do you not mix religion and politics? You rightly understand what religion is. Religion is not man's works, it's not what religion is. Religion is man's response to their belief in who God is. There are many religions. There's a true religion. The true knowledge of God, you will have an actual religion. And in that way understood, since our religion is founded upon the scriptures, everything I do is religious. My relationship with my wife is my religion. My relationship with my children, my work, my those are all my religion. Can you separate politics from your life? Albert Mohler says, quote, politics is simply the process whereby we decide how we're going to live as a society. And so there's no way to be apolitical if you have any stake in how it is that we as a society are going to live. What our rules are going to be, what kind of rights and human dignity we're going to expect, and what we're going to stand for in our place in the world. Real religion and politics not me. Guys are inseparable. So how do we respond to our government? I have a lot to say about it. God's people grown in different forms of government. We see this in Romans chapter 13. Oops. Romans 13, let every soul be subject to the governing authorities. So we're to be subject. This is Romans, written 57 AD. Nero was Caesar, BC 54 AD. So guess who was Caesar when he wrote that? Nero, the same Nero that would take off his head. It still says we're to be subject to them. But there is no authority except from God, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God, even the bad. Somehow, all that God is working out his salvation. Therefore, whoever resists the authority, you're not just resisting the top of the government, who are you really resisting? God. Why? Because God's doing it. And those who resist will bring judgment upon themselves. He said, hey, you see Overall, our response to the governing officials is submission. Now let's say the governing officials say we will no longer speak or teach you. This is a situation that John and Peter found themselves in. And so they're given that command by their governing official. They say, well, whether it's right in the sight of God to listen to you more than God, you judge. We can't stop speaking about the things we've seen and heard. So if that day comes, we're to submit as much as possible until the commandment of God is being imposed by the government official. You guys follow me? Can you imagine this as well? Can you imagine if the followers of John had the opportunity to get together and decide and choose for themselves another leader that would align more with biblical principles? Do you think John would encourage followers? Hey, you need to do something about it. What do you think? If he's going to go out of his way and just rebuke a political figure, how much more will he tell his followers? You need to do something about it, right? Hey, you guys need to be the ones that put someone in that position. And so that's what, we'll talk about the need to vote. Because it's more than just a political thing. You can't separate the political from the religious. And we need to know how to vote. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, although, by the way, it is not illegal for the religious person to support a candidate. So we don't do that here. That's actually not true. You should think in a way that so how do you vote? You vote the Bible. What's the bullseye for us as we vote? Right, there's certain political things, and I know people have that there are things that they really love. It's not immigration, it's not healthcare, it's not the. I'm going to give you two things that are the bullseye. Number one, it is God's design for marriage between you and me. That is where we vote. Maybe there's a guy who doesn't agree with something that you have on a peripheral subject. That is number one, because that is the core of any culture. And I would say even more than that, it is the protection of life. Maybe that is important. That is number one. That's just for innocent bloodshed that he is going to remove Israel from their land. The fathers of our nation understood this. In the Declaration of Independence, he said, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these, what? Life, liberty. So, midterms are coming up. November, right? So, Steve and Carla, they're going to be giving information. When it quits us, because it is our responsibility so that you can know where the different candidates stand and that you can put that into practice. You think I want to say this. The impact that we're being rejected by others, but the impact we can have on others. Notice verse 12 how they responded. They took and they buried. They took John and they buried him. It's their lives. And mentioned earlier David Livingston, right? He lives with 40,000 miles. His life was in his bed. That was the last place they left him. The next time they found him, there was no Europeans anywhere to be found. They found him on his knees, with his hands like this, and that was the way they were passed away. Those men who were with him, they said, this was a great man of hope. He deserves a proper took out the organs, watched his body day and night, protecting him from wild beasts. They put him back together to cover him in the car in order to preserve the body. They put it on a pole and they went 1,000 miles to get to the sea. And that man the impact of you and I live for Christ that it can have on other people. The impact of John the Baptist who lost his life, how did it affect others? Look at the life of David Livingston, all of that. It affected them to such a degree. They would take 1,000 miles, is that like to Virginia from here, on foot to Africa? to live for Christ. Next time we're challenged to stand up and be rejected, go for it. Go for it. Father, we thank you, God, for His word. Lord, give us strength in the times where we don't like to be rejected. It doesn't feel good. But you know, Lord, that we're accepted by you. Lord, we thank you. God, that we could be here and study your word this morning together. We bless your people. Lord, as they lead here, the instruments of the gospel, as you lead your body. In Jesus' name.